The last rays of sunlight stretched lazily across the sky, painting it in shades of orange and pink as Officer Logan Carter cruised down Route 22. The highway was unusually quiet for this time of evening, leaving Carter alone with his thoughts and his never-ending need for control. Carter wasn't the kind of cop who believed in courtesy or restraint. To him, the badge wasn't just a symbol of authority. It was his license to dictate, to dominate. He had earned a reputation in the department for being aggressive, but his supervisors turned a blind eye. As long as he kept up his numbers, tickets, arrests, citations, they let him be. Power was his addiction, and tonight he was looking for his next fix. That's when he saw it. A sleek black sedan, gliding effortlessly down the road, its polished exterior gleaming under the dying light. No swerving, no reckless driving, nothing out of place. But something about it irked Carter. A car that perfect meant something was off. "Let's see what this one's hiding," he muttered, flipping on his sirens. The sound sliced through the quiet, an authoritative shriek demanding submission. The sedan obediently signaled and pulled over to the shoulder. Carter smirked. He loved this part, the moment when someone realized they were at his mercy. Swaggering over, his boots crunching against gravel, Carter took his time. Let them sweat a little. The driver's window rolled down with smooth precision, revealing a black man in his 50s. He was dressed in a sharp, well-pressed uniform, the kind that commanded respect. Every crease in his attire spoke of discipline, of order, but none of that impressed Carter. "License and registration," he barked, leaning into the car slightly. The driver, calm and composed, handed over the documents without hesitation. "Is there a problem, officer?" His voice was steady but firm. Carter didn't like that. He preferred his stops to be filled with stammering and nervous compliance. This man, whoever he was, carried himself with too much confidence. "You tell me," Carter said, his smirk widening. "You look like someone with something to hide." The driver's brow arched ever so slightly, but he remained silent. That irritated Carter even more. "Step out of the vehicle," he ordered. The man tilted his head slightly. "On what grounds?" Carter scoffed. "Let's call a probable cause." A brief pause. Then, without argument, the driver opened the door and stepped out. His movements were slow, deliberate. There was something in the way he carried himself, a quiet authority that made Carter's gut twist with irritation. Determined to put him in his place, Carter yanked open the car doors, searching for something, anything, that would justify instincts. Glove compartment? Empty. Console? Neatly organized. Back seat? Just a single, unremarkable briefcase. Bingo. "What's this?" Carter asked, snatching it up like he had just uncovered contraband. The driver's jaw tensed slightly, but his voice remained even. "That's personal property. I strongly suggest you put it back." Carter chuckled, shaking his head. "You don't get to suggest anything." "I'm serious," the man said, his voice carrying a weight of warning. "You really don't want to do this." "Oh, I do," Carter sneered, popping open the locks. Then chaos. A loud pop erupted from the case. In the next instant, a jet of thick, red paint sprayed out with mechanical precision, covering Carter from head to toe. The officer let out a guttural yell, staggering back as the sticky liquid clung to his face, uniform, and hands. His eyes burned, his nose clogged with the strong, synthetic scent of the substance. "What the—" Carter sputtered, furiously rubbing at his face, only to smear the paint deeper into his skin. The driver, watching the spectacle unfold, let a small smirk break his otherwise stoic demeanor. "I warned you," he said simply. Carter spun around, furious and humiliated, his red-streaked face a mask of rage. "You think this is funny?" The man crossed his arms, his stance unshaken. "Not particularly," he replied, "but it is a security measure. That case contains classified materials." Carter's fists clenched, his breath coming in ragged, angry bursts. "You're under arrest." The man merely raised an eyebrow. "For what exactly?" For assaulting an officer." Carter stammered. The driver chuckled dryly. "That's a stretch. You tamper with my property after being warned. I'd be careful with your next move, Officer. Carter's rage clouded his judgment. Reaching for his radio, he barked into it. I need backup. Suspect armed with, some kind of hazardous device. The driver let out an amused breath. Hazardous, he mused. That's one way to describe a security deterrent. As Carter fumbled to wipe the paint from his face, cars began to slow down, drivers rolling down their windows to take in the bizarre scene. Some honked in mock applause. Others pulled out their phones, eager to record the sight of a flailing, paint-covered cop. Yo, that dude just wrecked that cop, someone shouted from a passing car. Carter's face burned beneath the red paint. He wasn't just losing control of the situation. He had already lost it. And then, as if the universe wanted to hammer the lesson home, the driver took a single step forward and calmly said, "Perhaps you should know who you're dealing with before you make things worse." Carter's nostrils flared. "Oh, yeah? And who the hell do you think you are?" The man adjusted his jacket slightly, revealing an insignia on his sleeve. Samuel Bennett, Vice Admiral, United States Navy, retired. The words slammed into Carter like a truck. His mouth opened, but no words came out. Before he could recover, the distant wail of sirens grew closer. Backup had arrived, and Carter's nightmare was only beginning. The flashing blue and red lights reflected off the paint-smeared face of Officer Carter as two patrol cars screeched to a stop nearby. Doors swung open, and out stepped four officers, their expressions quickly shifting from confusion to barely suppressed amusement. Sergeant Dawson, a grizzled veteran with no patience for nonsense, took one long look at Carter, red-faced, wild-eyed, and dripping paint onto the pavement. His brows knitted together as he muttered, "What in the hell is going on here?" Carter, still trying to wipe his face, pointed a trembling, red-smeared finger at Vice Admiral Bennett. "This man, he assaulted me. Used some kind of chemical weapon. I need immediate backup." Bennett, standing with a kind of composure that could only be honed through decades of military service, clasped his hands behind his back. "Sergeant," he began, his voice cool and measured, "I'm Vice Admiral Samuel Bennett, United States Navy, retired. What your officer is calling a chemical weapon is actually a security device, one that he set off by illegally tampering with my personal property." Dawson blinked, processing the information. "You're military?" "Retired," Bennett confirmed, nodding slightly. "And while I respect law,